All right, Robby, what's on your radar today?
So Twitter is in the midst of a transformation, you've probably noticed. It is becoming more of a right-leaning news platform. And this will have profound consequences for the debate about Section 230, the federal statute that shields websites from some liability created by users, which effectively allows the internet to function as a lightly restricted space. Let me explain. Elon Musk purchased Twitter, as you know, last year with the stated goal of making the site more hospitable to all kinds of political expression. But Musk is himself increasingly associated with the right. On Wednesday, Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced his bid for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination during a Twitter Spaces live event alongside Elon Musk, who's an avowed supporter of DeSantis. Now, Musk's Twitter is also attracting top conservative talent. After acrimoniously parting ways with Fox News, conservative superstar Tucker Carlson declared he would relaunch his show on Twitter. The Daily Wire, a conservative media empire, recently decided to release all of its podcast videos on the site as well. Quote, if Elon Musk stands by his commitment to make Twitter a home for free speech and delivers on monetization opportunities and more sophisticated analytics for content creators, I imagine we will invest even more into the platform. That was Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring talking about it. Now, neither the Daily Wire nor Carlson appear to have special deals with Musk, who has said that they will be bound to the same rules as anyone else posting content on the site. But consider Musk's situation with respect to Carlson and compare it to the host's previous relationship with Fox News. Here's where it gets interesting. Because after all, Carlson's departure from Fox News followed the resolution of the company's legal dispute with Dominion Voting Systems. Dominion sued Fox, arguing that its programming had been defamatory. Guests who appeared on Fox News' show, including Carlson's, were accused of making false statements about Dominion. Now, under traditional defamation law, Fox News was liable for statements on Carlson's show. But Twitter is not. Here's the point. As an online platform, Twitter cannot be sued in most cases for its user speech. That's the entire point of Section 230, to empower websites to craft whatever speech policies are best for them, without forcing them to incur risk. If we didn't have Section 230, social media sites would have to moderate content far more aggressively. I mean, imagine if Facebook and Twitter could be sued for user speech, well, then they wouldn't be able to let users post at will, without approval or without review. Jennifer Huddleston, a technology policy research fellow at the Cato Institute, tells me that, quote, one advantage of Section 230 is it allows different platforms to try different models of online content moderation to serve specific audiences. Now, she says we've, quote, recently seen this with Elon Musk's changes to Twitter's content moderation rules in ways that create new opportunities for conservative news content. Now, at least prior to Musk's Twitter takeover, this underlying reality had actually vexed some on the right, leading Republicans, including former President Donald Trump, Senator Josh Hawley, Senator Ted Cruz, many others. They have alleged unfairness, arguing that social media sites do not deserve this liability shield if they operate in a politically biased manner. Quote, with Section 230, tech companies get a sweetheart deal that no other industry enjoys. That was Josh Hawley. While Republicans have railed against Section 230 for empowering social media sites to moderate too much content, Democrats have criticized it for the opposite reason. They want to punish Meta, Twitter, Google, etc. for not censoring more content. Senator Elizabeth Warren has proposed various schemes to make the sites more liable for user content on the theory that this would force the companies to take down more alleged right-wing misinformation, to take action with greater vehemence. Now, here's my prediction. If Twitter becomes the new home for right-leaning content, Republicans will have to rethink their ire towards Section 230 because Twitter cannot exist without it. Democrats, on the other hand, will become much more vocal about the need to rein in tech and subject the platforms to the same liability standards as non-internet publishers. They will cast Section 230 as a giant loophole that allows Musk to evade responsibility for Carlson's speech. They will say that misinformation, the great crisis of our age, according to Democratic thinking, cannot be stopped as long as the platforms themselves are immune. Section 230, of course, provides protection to everyone who wishes to express themselves online. It's the reason that the internet has remained such a liberating, freewheeling place. Repealing or replacing it would risk damaging the very foundations of the largely unfettered discourse that exists on social media. As Huddleston says, Section 230 has been critical to protecting the speech of all users online by allowing platforms to carry user-generated content without the fear of business-ending litigation as a result of how a user uses the platform. The result is that a variety of voices, including conservative news voices, have more opportunities to connect with their audience thanks to online platforms, end quote. Nevertheless, expect these foundations to come under even more strenuous attack from politicians and the mainstream media as Twitter becomes the right's new home. That's my prediction. Liberals, Democrats, and the mainstream media will eventually realize that while you could sue Fox News for the things Tucker Carlson says and does while he had a show on that channel, once he moves his show to Twitter, no one will be able to sue the website or its owner, Elon Musk, and that will make them, liberals, Democrats, the mainstream media, very angry and even more paranoid about throttling free speech on the internet. Just my prediction that this kind of, because there's been an alliance, honestly, for the last few years. You're just as likely to hear criticism of this internet regulation, Section 230, from Democrats as you are from Republicans. Republicans are mad at break up big tech, they're biased against us, that kind of thing. Again, a criticism that never really made a lot of sense from my perspective, because even though you can totally, have questions about things big tech platforms have done, on the whole, social media has empowered conservatives and dissidents, leftists, anyone outside the mainstream consensus to speak. So I think it was really self-defeating that they were going after the platforms. But now I see this polarizing, because if they're thinking about it for even a few seconds, Twitter, if it becomes this new home for conservative content, is totally reliant on this law.
Yeah, I think there's some merit to that theory. The only pushback that I would offer is, one, of course, Tucker Carlson or anybody else on Twitter or elsewhere has the power to be sued for defamation in their personal capacity. This is what happened to Alex Jones. He paid a huge multi-million-dollar lawsuit out because of lying about the murder of those children and all of that. So that's still on the table.
Absolutely.
And two, part of what was going on in Dominion was even traditional publishers are largely insulated from the kinds of lawsuits that we saw in Dominion, except for that this was just a case with an overwhelming amount of kind of unprecedented evidence that behind the scenes Fox knew there was an inside opinion versus an outside opinion, and there was with knowledge and intent to put views on the air that the people who were hosting those shows or who were working at Fox News from the top on down knew not to be true, or that they didn't personally believe. And that's why people felt like that was a stronger case than most, and likely why there was ultimately a settlement. So all of that being said, I do think that you're right that it's likely that Democrats or liberals are going to continue to have an appetite for attacking platforms that they feel are promoting views that are not in line with their own. It's also worth saying that I don't think this is necessarily super new, as there was a lot of reporting about YouTube in particular having an algorithm that pushed, especially kids seem to be the concern, down certain kind of extremist rabbit holes. There was a conversation about how liable they should be, given that they have some control over the algorithm. And I think that there's been some nuanced thinking from people like Zephyr Teachout, who broadly would uphold most of Section 230, but ask some questions about the extent to which some of these websites are starting to act like publishers in the traditional sense. And if you are acting like a publisher, not just hosting all the information that comes, but amplifying some of the information, de-amplifying some of the other information, censoring some of the information, promoting some of the other information, at what point do you start to act like the New York Times with an editor, et cetera, that should be responsible for the content on your site?
Right, but a lot of people will make the mistake of saying, because you need to change section. So you can think Section 230 should be changed. Some people make the mistake of, particularly on the conservative side, said, well, if you're doing the things you described, then you're acting like a publisher. You no longer get this protection. Like, actually, the statute specifically gives you this protection in the case you do all those things. You can say it should be changed, but that's different from saying they're violating. Like, the statute specifically says, if you do all those things, you are not suddenly transformed into a publisher to take on.
I mean, that's a really important point, because Zephyr Teachout says, I would repeal parts of 230, but that is exactly why. But I think it's worth noting that everyone who says they want to repeal some aspect of Section 230 isn't necessarily a kind of anti-free speech zealot who doesn't understand the value of protecting these.
I understand that the only criticism really of Section 230 that I think I understand is that it is true that the internet component gets the platform, because this isn't just a protection for like internet, it's for the internet part of any company.
Right.
But it is like a book publisher doesn't have this same kind of protection. Honestly, I would just expand the protection to traditional publishers as well. I don't love defamation and liability as concepts overall. I'm a free speech extremist, radical zealot. So that would be how, if you think it's so unfair, that's how I would square the circle.
Do you think there would be any responsibility if you found out one day that YouTube or Facebook, pick your platform, decided that it was going to push, let's say, pro-Nazi content or push some kind of lefty extremism that was telling kids to go out and build Molotov cocktails and bomb police stations, whatever it is that you don't want people to do. If a website decided to promote that kind of content, do you think there should be any liability for harms that accrue?
If they're advocating direct, with your latter example, that advocating direct violence, that might run afoul
they're
of
not
some
advocating
legitimate
for it.
criminal.
But they're not advocating for it. They're just algorithmically putting people toward other folks' content. So again, here's the situation.
I think you should take it up with those people then.
Yeah, well,
that's my view.
That's the question. It's a hard question.
More Rising right after this.